Hi there. Last week, Bangladesh has pretty much witnessed a political fiasco, an administrative disorder, a jurisdictional incorrection, and a near miss. And the reason I'm saying it was a near miss, because had the government stepped down, or Professor Yunus stepped down, that could have been a disaster and a catastrophic event for Bangladesh. It was very unfortunate that following 5th of August, we have to encounter this kind of situation whereby the government and the civil and military bureaucracy standing in two different directions. And, the country has been in limbo. The country has been completely stumbled about the incidents that very much unfolded over the last few days. So what happened? The military chief wasn't happy about some of the subject matters that the government is initiating. And this goes as follows. The handing over of Chittagong port to a foreign venture, um, the election, there has been confusion about it, despite Professor Yunus made, the undertaking and made it clear, crystal clear, that it won't be beyond June 26. But the chief of army staff vowing his, sort of comment about sort of bringing the election earlier as possible, i.e. December this year. He was also concerned about the humanitarian corridor that the government is proposing and negotiating with the United Nations. Obviously, there has been like no pros and cons about this process. Uh, and as a military chief, I mean, I personally believe that he has, inherent right to express his dissatisfaction or satisfaction, whichever way it is, to the government, but not in the mannerism that he did. He's spoken out in public, and his, sort of remarks was in social media, in the mainstream media as well, expressing the dissatisfaction, discontentment about the government. He also, been seen that he is very much aligned by the major political party or the main political party, BNP, because both his statements were, resonating with the BNP's demand as well. So there has been conspiracy and there has been whispering amongst the people as well that has the military chief aligned with the incoming government, which is pretty much possible it will be BNP. So, uh, as a result, what happened has happened. Professor Yunus got disgruntled. He was pretty much on the verge of stepping down. However, eventually, I mean, it didn't happen. He changed his mind, and so did the rest of the advisors, sort of played a crucial role as well. The utterly despicable matter to me that following the comments made by the army chief, I mean, there were smearing campaign, tarnishing and propaganda amongst the social media influencers. And they are not social media influencer XYZ or like Tom, Dick, and Harry. They're the prominent and renowned social media influencers who've been playing an active role in terms of ousting the Sheikh Hasina, building collective intelligence and public opinion as well. And people admire them. But I was astonished and kind of like, gobsmacked seeing the scale and the language been using of by the social media influencers, against each other. So some social media influencers have been siding to the army chief and, to some respect, siding sort of BNP, the key political party, whilst some has been siding, the like chief advisor, and they've been kind of, trying to defend him, and trying to, sort of smear against the oppositions of social influencers. So, I mean, it has been absolutely unfortunate seeing the country has been divided into two key major, sort of front. And this has something, I never seen it before, to be honest, especially, not in the last 16 years, because we had a sort of common enemy, Sheikh Hasina. But now that the country, has moved on from that kind of debacle and, obviously the sort of after 5th of August, I mean, we all had hoped at least we have some, national unity when it comes to national crisis and national interest. But unfortunately, we haven't, seen this in social media, neither, in sort of mainstream media, or not to the government, sort of different machineries and the apparatus as well. I believe as a military chief, he has the reasonable ground, to express his dissatisfaction to the chief advisor, because, he reports to the chief advisor, and obviously, being a dissatisfied, sort of military chief, or being a dissatisfied, sort of institutional head, he has the right to vow his concern. However, the way and, sort of mannerisms, he did out and open in public, which has been, sort of widely sort of published by the mainstream media and thereafter social media as well. This was, to me, absolutely a jurisdictional incorrection by the military chief. What would have been ideal, the military chief, had visited the chief advisor, expressed his concern, or, partaking this sort of cabinet meeting, expressing his concerns, or he could have invited the chief advisor and some of the other advisors to the army headquarters, and all the generals collectively expressed their dissatisfaction and discontentment to the government, raising their concerns and suggesting the government the best to afford. So unfortunately, it didn't happen. And as he vowed his concerns as out in public, this has been grabbed by the social media influencers, and they kind of painted additional picture into it as well. And one party started like framing the other, which has been absolutely shambolic to me. And this is nothing but, dividing the country into two major sort of fronts and giving the ammunitions to India. And as India is very good in sort of, like grabbing the opportunity, so they grabbed the opportunity very well. And Indian media has been absolutely, over the moon finding an issue like this. And they started their propaganda campaign through their outlets as well. So I believe, this whole thing could have managed, in proper way, had it been, sort of thought through at the first place. I believe, the interim government could not sort of step out from their responsibility and their liabilities as well, because the situation has been largely attributed by the decision-making policy and the framework of the interim government as well. We are not sure whether there was enough discussion and consultation with the military about the handing the port to, like foreign venture, or, sort of making the decision about the humanitarian corridor, or, the election and the conducting election, the mob justice, and the mobocracy as well. We don't know there has been enough consultation between the army and the interim government. But what we do know that there has been, cracks, and the cracks are widening and widening, as days progress. And I believe this is very alarming. This is very, this is early warning sign that Bangladesh is not heading towards the direction that it had set at the first place after 5th of August last year. I must say, people have been really confused. People have not but choice but to believing either one party or the other. And people across the country, have been really uncertain and about the precarious situation of which way the country is heading towards, whether there will be an election or not, whether it will be, sort of election on right time. And I believe, this has been sort of a proper fiasco and an absolute, sort of mismanagement by the interim government. It is still not too late. We all hoped by now the government would have, sort of put the reform agenda onto its, sort of last gear. By now, sort of a lot of, reforms should have been carried out. By now, the country would have had, a sort of, sort of journey or direction of travel towards the credible and free and fair election. But unfortunately, nothing has happened. There has been growing mistrust between the political parties and the government as well, especially the key political party, BNP, who is not trusting the government and also warning the government that they could be coming out on street with their demand of having the election in December or probably earlier. So I would say this is a very, you know, a sort of precarious and convoluted situation. And this wouldn't have happened, I mean, had the government handled those situations very well in the first place. It is not too late, and nothing is too late when it comes to national interest, when it comes to the national, sort of security as well. I believe there would be a sort of way forward here. The government and the cabinet of the chief advisor should be meeting with the top generals, having some dialogue, deepening their relationship, and also minimizing the differences of opinions, and also coming to a consensus. And whatever consensus they come up with, they should be, coming up with some kind of white paper of what's going to be happening about those unresolved issues or apple of discords, and also what will be happening, in terms of the election going forward. This will give trust to the people, with the political parties, to the stakeholders, international community, and also, this will be a way forward of shutting down those social media influencers, I mean, who've been constantly and relentlessly smearing each other. So I believe, this might be the sort of like only way forward if we want the country to have a sort of direction of travel. And if we don't have a direction of travel, we will be in deep trouble, and it will be a catastrophic situation for the country and people, obviously. Thank you.